Just a much more modern society than I ever expected. And China eventually became my life.
James Early is another American who was quick to recognize the opportunity in China today. He's the former director of research at one of the world's largest independent financial research firms.
People are missing everything that's going on here, how fast things are moving.
In many ways, the country has become more sophisticated and advanced than anything we're used to in America, which is why China is creating more millionaires than anywhere else on Earth, and why so much money is flooding in. Let me show you one example of what I mean. One of the first things you notice when you move about in China is that almost no one, including street vendors and even homeless beggars, use cash anymore. Regular money, as most of us know it, has simply disappeared.
I almost forgot how fast growing of the mobile internet and online payment. Roughly like 2 or 3 years ago, I have to, carry a big wallet with a lot of changes. So you have to pay like cash or credit cards whenever you go. You have to withdraw cash, when you have no cash available, you have to find the ATM machines. But right now for here, in Beijing, not just in Beijing, even in my hometown, I don't need to carry a wallet at all. I mean, literally no cash at all.
So you don't carry any cash?
No. I can live like every day full.
No credit cards?
No credit card, no cash. Even for a full year, it's, I don't need any cash at all. The only thing concerns me is the battery of my mobile phone.
That's great.
Yes.
So if your battery dies, you don't have any money.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Bob Van Dyke is the CEO of Naspers, one of the biggest technology investors in the world. Today, Naspers owns a huge share of one of China's biggest tech firms, and they've helped build tech companies in more than 120 countries. I met with Bob at his office in Amsterdam.
Where typically now you check into a hotel, you put your credit card down, and you go through a registration. Like in China, you show up with your phone, they scan a QR code or code that's on your phone, and they'll have your complete reservation there. They'll have your credit card details, and your check-in procedure is done. And interestingly, it goes as far, like if you travel in parts of China now, in Beijing, for example, you want to pay with a credit card, they don't accept your credit card. They insist on being paid by mobile phone.
The other day I was in Beijing and I was trying to buy an ice cream. She was a 19-year-old, young woman, and she couldn't sell me an ice cream because I had money. I had renminbi.
Yeah.
She couldn't take money. You have to do it on your phone.
Yeah.
Everything is on. I wish I were buying a Mercedes because she gave me the ice cream in the end.
Oh, really?
She felt so sorry for this poor foreigner who couldn't, all he had was money. No, the many things in China are ahead of the U.S. Again, I don't like saying it, Steve. I'm an American. My kids are Americans. My wife is American. But I have to face reality. And the Tencent, Alibaba, you know the names as well as I do. These are not little guys in the backyard somewhere.
Right.
These are major, gigantic powerhouses built on technology.
Lei Cheng is business TV anchor for CGTN in China and a former China correspondent for CNBC. No, I don't see any money changing hands here. I just see these signs.
Exactly. It's so convenient.
So literally, is there any money changing hands at all?
Very little, I think. You'd have to be living under a rock to not have WeChat, to not have Alipay, because the blue is for Alipay and the green is for WeChat, and there's a constant battle to see who has more market share in the online or offline space. Online, because of Taobao, Alipay definitely, but offline because everyone uses WeChat as, social messaging and just about everything else. WeChat Pay has an advantage.
WeChat, Alipay, Taobao. What are these names that Lei is talking about? WeChat is the most powerful social media platform in China with over 1 billion users. It's like Facebook, but on steroids. You can use it not only for communicating with friends and family, but for business dealings, for setting up doctor's appointments or dinner reservations, for paying bills, even for paying your taxes. Taobao is the largest e-commerce website in the world, bigger than Amazon. And Alipay is another mobile payment app which, with WeChat Pay, are the 2 most popular apps in China for paying for everything with your mobile phone. It's amazing. Every time I come to China, I see fewer coins and bills. So I asked Lei Cheng about the virtual disappearance of all types of physical money. So how long has this been, though? I mean, because I was here just a few years ago.
And people still had coins and notes?
Yeah, I mean, as little as 5 years ago, this didn't exist.
Well,
I mean, no, it was
5 years, it's a long time in China.
Right, and
Yeah.
today, I mean, do you use cash for anything?
Very, very little. Yeah.
Do you carry cash?
No. I mean, I've got my produce here, I've got my sunglasses, and I've got my phone. And this is why even pickpockets are becoming unemployed in China, because they can't steal phones because everyone's holding them. They can't steal money anymore. Nobody carries money.
Right. And that is what is leading this new cashless society. You can see it in action everywhere, and many times it's paired with other really interesting new technologies. All right, it's lunchtime in Beijing, so I want to take you to one of the most unique places you've ever seen. So here's what's unique about this place. There are no servers at the tables. All of your food travels down all of these tracks, goes right in front of you at the individual table. Let's get started and order us a burger. This is the way it goes. We'll find the American burger there. Check out. Continue to payments. Select WeChat. Hold up the QR code right here. Now we just wait for our burger. And there's my burger.
So I would say a great example of a technology that we think is coming to fruition everywhere is using mobile phone to sell used goods. I think in America, Craigslist is something that everybody knows, and I think has worked well in the past, but it's something that requires a bit of work to sell your item. Now we've come with a business like Letgo, which we're a big investor in, to the point where you basically just need to point your mobile phone camera at stuff you don't want to own anymore, and just by pushing a single button, the phone will take a picture, it will recognize what it is you want to sell, it will suggest a price for what you want to sell, and it will immediately post it on the web, which gives people a huge audience with absolutely zero effort to sell their used goods.
This trend, of course, is proliferating worldwide, but nowhere is it more prevalent than in China. Jonathan Crane is an American entrepreneur who got his start bringing the world's most popular music acts, like the Rolling Stones, Whitney Houston, and Beyoncé, to China roughly 20 years ago. He explains the incredible transformation he saw take place in just a few years.
Doing business in China, what you immediately see is that things move very quickly over there. People are very fast at innovation, and also adoption is much faster in China than anywhere else in the world. An example is we had a ticketing company, and when we started that ticketing company, it was probably 2004, and it was a cash society still. We then saw in 2005, 2006, people were starting to use debit cards. Okay, so instead of having to have lots of cash around, you use the debit card, which was convenient. And then within 2 years from there, we started doing mobile ticketing. So really within 4 or 5 years, we went from cash delivery to mobile ticketing. And the adoption was incredible that was happening across China.
This trend will soon reshape America, too. This is all just a preview of how it will play out. Brian Takango has been traveling across Asia to research and invest in local businesses since 1999. He's got a remarkable track record of finding future blue-chip companies when they are just still small firms. I met with Brian recently in Hong Kong.
Companies like Alibaba, like JD.com, companies like Bingo Box, for example, that now have 300 cashless convenience stores in China, and you just go in, and there's no cashier there. You just walk in and scan your app, and you get your stuff, you scan it in this table, and then you just walk out with your goods. I mean, and it's all being done through artificial intelligence. It's all being done through the internet and these wireless payment methods.
I went to one of these employee-less stores in Shanghai.
All right, Steve, we're coming out of the subway here in suburban Shanghai. This is a middle-class area. This is not fancy. This is not cutting edge. This is just average China. But you can do a lot of things, including visit an unmanned store just with your face. So inside, it's got really the same stuff you'd find in a 7-Eleven. We're the only people in here. You don't need any person to run this store. And yet it's also safer, Steve, than you'd expect, because everything in this store is connected to my face, which is connected to my WeChat account, which is connected to my Chinese bank account. So whatever damage I do here, all comes back to me at the end of the day. Here you go, sir. I'm just going to push this button, and we scoot right in. All we do, we set this guy down. I'm going to show my face. Not proud of that picture, but it'll work. I'm going to scan this QR code with my WeChat app. And simple as that.
No employees.
No employees. Took just a few, probably faster checkout than if we had employees. Here's your Coke, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the future, right here in China.
So one of the things that I think is really transforming people's lives is how people use WeChat in China. So for example, when people decide to meet some friends for dinner, they typically would invite them via WeChat because they're obviously in their contacts. Then they would send, the reservation would happen through WeChat because the restaurant they want to go to is a contact as well, and they have their booking system integrated in WeChat. So then they show up at the restaurant at the same time. The ordering, actually the menu of the restaurant will be embedded in WeChat, and they online order. So there will be no waiter taking orders, but everybody orders on their mobile phone. In the end, the check also gets sent to the mobile phone, and people actually can choose to pay with their integrated 10-pay option. So the waiter only brings the food, and everything else automatically gets done through the WeChat app.
These technologies have even changed the way people buy cars. Get this, you can now reserve a test car on your phone, then pick it up at what is essentially a giant vending machine for new cars by BMW, Ford, and Volvo, and then drive it around all you want, test it for the next 3 days for less than $50. The thing you need to understand is that it's not just about making payments on your phone or getting rid of physical cash. This development creates hundreds and hundreds of new business ideas. This is the future for us in America, but it's all unfolding right now in real time here in China. Kevin Liu studied at Cornell University. Today, he's an equity strategist at CICC, the largest investment bank in China. Kevin is part of what is widely considered to be the best equity research team in the country, and we met up in Beijing.
Back to 2006, it's roughly just over something like 1% in China with regard to like mobile penetration.
In 2006, 1%
Yeah.
of Chinese people had mobile internet. Today, it's at least 50%.
At least.
At least, yes.
At least. My life is kind of, tied, very closely tied with my phone.
Today, the amount of money the Chinese spend on e-commerce is 42% of the world's total. That means the value of China's e-commerce transactions is now larger than the value of the e-commerce transactions from France, Germany, the UK, and the US combined. This is why the money is flowing to China, and why more millionaires are being created here than anywhere else in the world. Everyone, everywhere, uses their mobile phone to pay for everything. Food, train tickets, plane tickets, tolls, clothing, fast food, everything with their mobile phone. In fact, on our most recent trip, we tried to spend a few $100s buying souvenirs in a Shanghai bookstore, but they no longer accepted credit cards.
What we often look at is what is the size of the potential user group we have. And for example, the number of internet users in China is rapidly approaching 1 billion. And those are numbers that even for a huge market like the US, they dwarf the very impressive numbers of the US. And I think that in time, as these populations become connected, wealthier, presents a fantastic investment opportunity.
Things have changed so fast in China over the last 30 years from nothing, from a very backwards country. Now people are living lives that a lot of people, even in the U.S., couldn't even imagine.
Okay, so from a cashless society to unmanned stores and waiterless restaurants to mobile commerce beyond our imagination, clearly this is not how most Americans perceive China, and these are not stories you typically see reported in the mainstream press. However, this is the reality in China today. But hold on, you might be saying to yourself, I thought this was a communist country. This doesn't sound like communism to me. Well, as Jim Rogers said earlier, California and Massachusetts are probably more communist than China. And the truth is, while the Chinese call themselves communists, they are actually among the best capitalists on earth. And this is part of what's caused such a radical distortion between perception and reality in China today.
China isn't a communist country anymore. It's not a Marxist communist regime like it was under Mao Zedong. It has advanced much more into what you might call a form of autocratic capitalism. It's still a dictatorship. It's still an autocracy. It's not a true democracy by any means. But think about it. Most of the economy is now run by private sector interests, by private companies who are doing their own thing, investing, doing what they want to do. Families can pretty much live where they choose these days. They can get educated the way they want. They can own their own home. They can invest in stock markets, invest in all sorts of products. Still a lot of restrictions. Nowhere near as free as it is in the West, perhaps, but it's certainly not a communist country in the way that Marxism says that all resources must be owned by the state. That is not the case in China anymore.
I mean, this is a country where since 1978,